Emotional eating, it's like such a sensitive topic. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to address it. But I'm going to share my story in this video, and I hope it helps you. So let's go. Hi guys, it's Deborah. Welcome to my channel. So in this video, I am going to talk about emotional eating in the context of doing alternate day fasting. So I want to preface this video by saying that I am not a psychologist, psychiatrist, I'm not a scholar, and everything I'm going to share here today is from my own personal experience. I'm not going to cite studies or clinical information or parrot anything outside of my own experience. My main intention for making this video and sharing it with the world, my thoughts, my experiences, and my conclusions that I've come to over the years, specifically as I identify myself as somebody who experiences emotional eating. You know, I want to sort of, I guess, confront some societal conditioning and particularly shaming around this issue, because I think it's really important to put it all into perspectives. I want to share just from that space of just being like holding space, for me, because this is my journey. I'm doing this alternate day fasting journey, and it's my alternate day fasting journey that has like facilitated so much movement around this in my own personal life. And I get so much value from other people who also come forward and share their story, or just share their experience, their frustrations, their goals, their pitfall. Like, I believe that this is like so important, because we can read a book or listen to somebody talk about it, but I think that people living through this and sharing themselves, confronting it, moving through that, and coming out the other side is like, that is so much value. So that's what I hope to bring here. I'm not on the other side. I'm just at the beginning stage of this process for myself, and so ready. Like, I'm just so enthusiastic about it. So that's what I'm sharing here today. Okay, so here's part of my theory. You don't have to agree. This is just me having put all the pieces of the puzzle together, and these are some of my perceptions around emotional eating. So any kind of dysregulation, like, we're not born with emotional eating. I'll keep it on emotional eating. We're not born with that. Something happens, something in our psyche or our trauma from our family. And even trauma can be, from betrayal or, some kind of negative, like really impactful negative experience, which creates a wound. And usually that wound, unless it's like looked at and unless it's like addressed, is going to continue to just, be there, and oftentimes begin to fester and just become like a normal part of our being, when it's not. It's an unnatural state of being. So we have a wound, regardless of where it comes from. And I'm just going to talk about, like, from the wound to, okay, there's a wound. What do? We can talk about it ad lib. Like, we can talk about it. I have talked about it in private, or I've, cried, and I've tried to release this. But what I came to understand was that this exists. So, shaming it or ignoring it or denying it, all that kind of stuff, just continues the cycle. And so once you go through some process of identifying whatever the wound is, and then knowing, okay, there's a wound, how do you move forward? How do you live your life? I don't want to live with this cycle anymore. I've chosen to address it. I want to heal that in the way that totally resonates with me, so that I'm not controlled by this. And so I think whittling it down, I think it comes down to, for me, what I've identified, at least in my circumstances, is at the root of it, there's some kind of a control thing. So for me personally, whittling this down, because that's kind of the process I need to go through when I'm trying to understand something really deep and complex, and how to, because I've spent so many years just kind of like winging it and thinking, okay, it's this, I'll just fix that, or it could be part of this, I'll just work on that. But in all those things, I never really got to the core issue of what it was, so that I can address it and head on and break out of this shaming and other societal things that are like preventing that kind of growth. So anyways, I've kind of deduced it to two concepts, two issues that potentially, at least from my experience, have resulted in an emotional eating pattern or issue. And that is, from my experience, is that emotional eating is usually as a result of either too much control on a person, which can result in things like anorexia, where somebody's hyper controlling their food. It's the one thing that they have control over. And on the other side, it's not enough of something. It's not enough love, or it's the opposite of being overly controlled. It's a sense of being not enough. And that's a wound. And so I'm on that side of the spectrum. I really don't know. These are totally just my thoughts. So if you don't agree, I respect that. I'm just sharing this from my place, from my point of view, and then lead into what I'm doing today to work on this. So yeah, from that side of the spectrum of not enough love, not enough support, not enough nurturing, not enough the things that kids need, or in relationships, and in that sphere, or that realm of that dynamic, is usually a lot of shaming, because I'll just talk from my experience as a kid, not receiving any of those things, caused a reaction. When you're little, you're like, I need this. And then on top of that, because it's an uncomfortable state for the authority figure in your life, is to double down on, at least for my experience, it was like this doubling down and twisted it, right? It was it was very psychologically damaging. And so there was always this kind of void for me of there's something not enough. And so you don't have to look too far to know that emotional eating is usually something to fill a void, or to soothe something, and also to self-medicate. I had built into my life, into my world, many strategies to deal with this dysregulation and how I coped with it. And the coping strategies that I had adopted they were coping strategies. At certain points of my journey, I had no idea what was actually going on. I just knew that I had to put certain things in place in order to function. And those are what I now know are dysfunctional things. I don't want to function in the world like that anymore. It's hard. I will say it's hard. It's not easy. And am I on the other side? No. I'm just moving in. I'm leaning into this like for the first time in my life. It actually started about 5 or 6 years ago. A bunch of things in my life. But when I realized, that especially in the last 2 or 3 years, because things really started to like go from extreme to extreme for me. And it was getting to the point where it's no longer like something I could hide, and nor did I want to. I went through the process of realizing that I'm dealing with something that I didn't ask for. I also wanted to move out of this victim mode by saying, I do this because, and it, there's so many layers to this, but I just want to I'm going to try to get to where I'm going with this. And just the point I was trying to make was it will present itself externally. It's like a wound. If you have like a pimple or something, it's happening under the surface, but eventually it's going to work its way out. And, the most common thing for if there's an emotional dysregulation or emotional eating issue, is that your weight, it will show up. Or in my case, I really wanted to like control the amount of exposure my emotional eating had by not letting it be shown on the outside. So I would do really restrictive eating. It's sort of kind of like this restrictive binge cycle, or doing really radical plans and put into place for myself. But there was always a moment where, or something that would happen that would cause me to go back to this particular coping mechanism, which was eating. It was one of the things that soothed me. It created comfort. It also created distress because, it wasn't something I wanted. But when you're in a distress state, it's normal to need to be soothed. And now, as I'm more aware of that normal thing, that I know that I need to, it's a shift. It's a big shift for me. It's all my life. So it's not going to happen overnight. And this is the thing that I want to pull this together now in terms of, okay, what do you do? What can be done to facilitate this change? Well, so first thing is awareness and acceptance and surrender to that. This is what happened. This is how I dealt with it. And this is, where I am right now. So I'm just going to share sort of, my perspective on how alternate day fasting has been an incredible tool, framework, system, protocol that is helping me exponentially, more than I ever could have imagined. And I've kind of been facing emotional eating for years, decades. And in the almost 90 days that I've been doing alternate day fasting, it has been an incredible healing process. And I'll share with you just the general, my general perception. So in terms of alternate day fasting, I have been doing alternate day fasting for almost 90 days, like a sliver away. And the amount of movement shift in my emotional eating issue since I've been doing alternate day fasting is, for me, mind-boggling. Because I have been working on, addressing and just moving through, getting to a place where I can live without this thing controlling my life. And it's actually happening. So I've been documenting my alternate day fasting journey since day one in the form of weekly vlogs, which, consists of my day-to-day experiences. And I share that, and you could see if you'd like to look back, I've been like addressing these things, and it's been hard. It's been like very exposing, but it's very vulnerable, but it has been facilitating this massive shift in me to the point where, I've just, so much stuff has come to the surface, and I'll share with you where I believe this is happening, because, I love alternate day fasting. It is changing my life in so many ways, and I refer to it sometimes as this magical protocol. And it has magical benefits to it, but it's not a vortex or a portal that once you go in and you do alternate day fasting, that poof, everything goes away, because it doesn't. But it has these kind of characteristics and I'll tell you why. For me, when I first found alternate day fasting, one of the things, there were several things that brought me to alternate day fasting, but one of the major ones was, you do this framework where you fast for a minimum of 36 hours, and then you have an eating window of 12 hours, depending on how you structure that 48-hour framework. But during that 12-hour period, you eat whatever you want. And like, for an emotional eater, I was in. I was like, where do I sign up? So, but I also had some other underlying things, because I wanted to heal my gut. My gut has been so damaged from so many things, but I also believe a lot of it has been emotional eating issues, as one of like a gazillion. So yeah, I was like, okay, sign me up. I was in, and I felt so free for the first time. And I had made the commitment that as long as I stuck to my framework, I did my 36-hour fast, I could eat whatever I wanted. And I have, things are shifting and changing. And as I'm building a more solid foundation, 90 days in now, almost 90 days, I feel like it's a part of my life. It's a lifestyle for me now, but still these emotional eating issues, they're still there. And I work through them, and I'm, uncovering all kinds of, things that have contributed to this, and how do I want to deal with it, and how do I want to move through it. But I guess what I want to say is, through alternate day fasting, it has given me the space to, during my fast, really go, and this isn't always voluntary. Stuff comes up for me. It's like I'm really going through this emotional healing phase of my life, and that in my fasted state, a lot of work gets done around that, and I release. And because food is no longer, during my 36-hour fast, it's not a quick fix anymore. It's something that I legitimately have to move through if I want to be successful and continue on doing alternate day fasting. And then on my eat days, what I've been noticing is, as I work through the emotional stuff, usually on my fasting, and I get like panicked because alternate day fasting has been the only thing that has worked for me sustainably this long, almost 90 days. I've never done anything for 90 days. And the work that is being done internally is unlike anything I've ever done. So in my eating window, and there's been, a few days where I had emotional eating issues because I had emotionally charged days. But what happened was, even though I did some emotional eating, and for me, that's in the form of, junk food usually. But but I did it within my 12-hour eating window, or whatever eating window I was in that day, but maximum 12 hours I personally do, because I always do a minimum of 36-hour fast. So in a 12-hour eating window, I have, I wouldn't say binged, but definitely like just kind of did my own thing. Kind of like I was in the wild, wild west country in terms of eating. And that was really hard for me on the other side. But like as I kept going, so usually in the past when I did, like do some emotional eating, I would be devastated and I would just be like feeling very defeated. And then that, whatever, if it was a binge or whatever, would go on until I just was like, oh, and then I would have to start over from scratch. And especially because I did so many, like, I was on that diet crazy train. So like, I'll just use keto, for example, because, it was so popular. It's been so popular for so long and sort of touted as this is the only way you can lose weight and da-da-da. So I would go on keto, which for me is like the worst thing because I love carbs. Like I don't want to live without carbs, but I would try so hard. And it was like torture for me. And then what I would start to do is create these keto desserts or keto cookies and snacks. And then that would throw me off. And then when I would say, okay, I'd go out and eat chocolate bars and stuff. And then it would take like, that whole keto transition thing is like about a 2-week process where you're going through hell because you're in the keto flu. And anyways, I was on that cycle and it was miserable. What I want to share around how alternate day fasting has helped is that in my eating window, like, and I don't say it's an ideal way to cope with emotional issues and things, but it exists, right? Emotional eating is something that is a coping mechanism, and it doesn't change the day that you start a program that is working for you. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that part of my story and share how alternate day fasting is helping me, how this framework is structured in such a way that when there is emotional eating within my eating window, it doesn't throw me off my game. It doesn't cause like the amount of destruction it used to. And I can still work through that and get to the root of those things without feeling like I have completely failed or anything. And so the major part of alternate day fasting in relation to emotional eating has been, I stick like really strictly to my windows. My fasting window is most priority. Because then I know, even though I have like, if something's going sideways, it's like my safety net. I know I'm okay. And I know I can get through it. I'm not scared of my fasting window. And as emotional things come up, by the time my eating window comes, I've worked through some of those things. And there have been times when I've been blindsided by emotional whatever, something hard has come up into my life or something has triggered me. And I've gone and ate junk food, but I keep it within my eating window with being mindful that, okay, I know I know that this isn't working for me. This is not like a part of my goal, which is to be super healthy and vibrant and energized. And that won't, I know now when I'm eating chocolate bars, it's not because I know my body needs, the Kit Kat is not going to like do anything for me. Its sole purpose is to soothe some kind of an emotional something. And in these 90 days, I've come to see it more like that way. Because usually by the end of my fast, my body is craving like real food. I know intuitively that, where I need, a lot of what I crave on alternate day fasting during my fasting window is like avocados. I still crave that. And other very highly nutritious foods. So that in and of itself is helping me realize that, you know, I could be legit hungry, yes. But when I'm craving, like, I don't know, something very wholesome, I know that that's my body. When I'm craving, like, and for me, when it hits, I want chocolate now. Like, so I'm understanding. I've had this space, this really, like, ultimately amazing structure. And all these pieces are coming together. Do I still eat chocolate? Yeah. You know, and I don't, like, I like chocolate, but I know the difference today when I'm eating a chocolate bar because it's fun or whatever, or you're in a social environment. You know, I'm learning to see the difference. I don't think, well, I will never know, but I truly believe that alternate day fasting has facilitated this structure for me to really get to a deeper understanding. And like I said, I'm still on this journey, and I kind of believe it will never really go away. I don't, you know, a wound is a wound, a scar is a scar. And the more I learn, then the more I am, you know, in a better place. So it's probably a lifetime journey for me, and I'm okay with that. That's part of the acceptance for me, and part of the, like, just acknowledging that, you know? Oh my God, it just takes the pressure down so much. And also giving myself, like, hey, this is, this behavior or pattern is as a result of something that, you know, was out of my control. For me, a lot of my stuff happens from my childhood. But I can do things today to empower myself. And I can tell you that alternate day fasting has been the most amazing thing for me. So anyways, guys, I hope you got some value from this. If you like this video, hit like. And if you want to see more from me, or you really like the content that I'm putting out in my weekly vlogs and things like that, hit subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Take care, guys.